rich, savoury, coconutty broth that is the love of many Singaporeans and Malaysians. Laksa Lemak is one of the most popular foods here, and you have to try it to know why it's one of our favourites. This recipe will also explain how you can make the base broth without squirreling for prawn heads and shells to get the thick broth flavour, so you can leave your freezer for other things instead. Let's get right into our recipe. We will first be making the rempah. I will skim through it, and if you have seen my previous video on the rempah, please skip on to the next section. First, we have 300 grams of shallots and 10 cloves of garlic to be blended with about 75 grams of vegetable oil. We will keep it separate from other ingredients in the rempah. Next, blend the remaining ingredients. 70 grams of dried chili that I have soaked and deseeded, 10 cut red chilies and 4 bird's eye chilies which I have deseeded as well, 10 candle nuts soaked and chopped up roughly, 4 stalks of lemongrass, and I'm using the white parts which I've chopped up finely, 50 grams of fresh galangal and 50 grams of fresh turmeric, 20 grams of dry toasted belacan. First, stir fry the shallot garlic paste until it's fragrant and changes colour to a dark yellow. Add in the chili paste and mix it well with the cooked shallot garlic paste. You will then cook the paste for about 25 to 40 minutes until the chili oils are forced out and the colour of the rempah darkens until something like that. At this point, lightly season it with 2 teaspoons of salt and 2 teaspoons of sugar. This amount of rempah is probably too much for 4 people's portion, so I will only be taking about 150 grams from it. You can always keep the remaining rempah as we have forced out most of the water and the salt should act as a natural preservative. This rempah can be used for many other dishes, so I always like to make more of it at one go. Next, for the broth of about 4 people, we have 12 large prawns and 60 grams of dried shrimps. You can substitute the large amount of prawns head you have to accumulate by using more of the dried shrimps instead. Peel off the shell and the head of the prawns and keep them for the broth. I've cut out the spine at the tip of the head along with the eyes and whiskers to make it much easier and safer to peel. Proceed with the deveining of the prawns. Please bear in mind that there are 2 veins, one in the back and one in the front of the prawn. After deveining the prawns, keep them aside for later use and start to chop up the dried shrimps. They have to be soaked for at least 30 minutes beforehand so that they are softened and easy to chop up. Keep the soaking liquid for later use. The dried shrimp just has to be roughly chopped, doesn't have to be super fine to flavour the soup. With that, we can head over to the stove and start making the broth. We first add about 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil to fry the prawn heads and shell. The purpose of the frying is to get rid of the funky seafood smell present inside before adding it into the soup. If you have seen my previous prawn noodle recipe, it's the same exact broth that I'm preparing. Add in the prawn heads and stir fry them until they turn orange in colour and they turn fragrant instead of still releasing the funky seafood smell. At that point, add the chopped dried shrimps and add more vegetable oil if it still looks too dry. Stir fry them until they turn fragrant and mix them evenly. Don't expect to see the orange prawn oils as that's only possible with way more prawn heads and shells. I've been preparing a pot of about 3 liters of boiling water at the side. Add the fragrant prawn heads and dried shrimps into the water. Don't waste any remaining oils inside the wok. Use a ladle and add about 2 to 3 ladles of soup into the wok and give it a good swirl to deglaze all the flavour stuck at the bottom and pour it back into the pot for boiling. Don't forget to add the dried shrimp soaking liquids into the pot as they have a lot of flavour after soaking the dried shrimps for over 30 minutes. Cover the lid of the pot and simmer at low-medium heat for at least 30 minutes, the longer the better. While the broth is simmering, let's not waste time and start preparing the other ingredients. We have our laksa leaves or Vietnamese coriander, which are essential for making laksa. They contain a strong aroma that is reminiscent of coriander, mint and lemon all at the same time, and this is what gives laksa its unique aroma that is not found in any other dish. Pluck out about 15 grams for the soup and 5 grams for the topping. Other than the rempah and laksa leaves, another important aromatic for the laksa is the coriander powder, which many people will miss out. Another important ingredient is the coconut milk. My recipe calls for 750 ml of coconut milk, but you can just adjust it to personal preference. If you are more health conscious, you can choose to go with evaporated milk as well, no problem. Just add the milk and taste until it reaches your desired taste and consistency. The next essential item is a topping, tofu puffs or tau pok. This is the ingredient responsible for the coconutty, savoury, spicy broth exploding in your mouth. Roughly cut them into thirds and it's ready to be added. After at least 30 minutes into the boiling of the broth, it's time to open the lid. Remove the prawn heads and try to avoid removing the dried shrimps. It's time to blanch the prawns before adding the rempah. Add in the prawns and remove the prawns within 3 minutes. When the prawns curls up into a C shape, it's ready for eating. Any longer and it will overcook and the texture will turn rubbery. Remove the prawns and set it aside to cool for easy plating later on. Afterwards, add about 150 grams of the prepared rempah into the broth. Follow that with 1 tablespoon of coriander powder to add another layer of flavour into the soup. Lastly, add about 15 grams of laksa leaves into the broth. Mix all the ingredients evenly and remove the scum floating at the surface of the boiling broth. Afterwards, cover the lid and continue simmering for around 20 minutes. Then, add the coconut milk. I advise you to add about 500 ml first, taste, then add according to your preference, as everyone has a different preference for the broth consistency and taste. If needed, you can also add some salt and sugar to taste. Lastly, add in the tofu puffs and turn on medium-high heat to reach a boil and let the tofu puffs absorb the laksa broth. Keeping the heat at low and cooking the laksa broth for longer will cause the coconut oil to separate out and form a thick red layer of oil at the top of the soup, and we want to avoid that. At about 5 minutes before the broth is ready, we can start to blanch other ingredients. First, bean sprouts in, followed by the thick bihun and the fish cakes. You can also use yellow noodles if you prefer them, but they are less healthier. Which one do you prefer? Let me know in the comments below. This will take less than 1 minute as we want to keep our bean sprouts as crunchy as possible. Afterwards, take them out of the boiling water and drain out the excess blanching water. Arrange the ingredients in a bowl and get ready to pour the hot boiling broth all over our noodles and ingredients. Hot, piping bowl of laksa ready to be consumed. Are you ready for this rich, savoury broth to completely take over your taste buds? We have come to the end of today's recipe. If you'd like to see more Peranakan and Malay cooking, do subscribe and support my channel. We upload about 2 recipes each week, including many other types of dishes, so do stay tuned. And I'll catch you in my next video.